strongly believe that youth have an important role to play in developing Utah's future, and that youth involvement in key issues like air quality, water, education, and affordable housing is critical to building a better future for all of us. I wanted to get involved in planning Utah's future for a couple of reasons. First, I saw the effects that growth is having on Utah, such as worsening traffic, dirtier air, and water shortages. I also noticed that civic, business, and government leaders were working together under the leadership of Envision Utah to engage all Utahns in developing Utah's future. And I felt that if leaders in Utah wanted to hear people's views, then youth will be the most affected by these decisions, should have our voices heard. So, what is Envision Utah? It was founded in 1997, and it's a non-profit, nonpartisan, voluntary organization that works to engage all Utahns in developing Utah's future. Recently, Governor Herbert commissioned a Your Utah, Your Future 2050 vision. Its goal is to get a bunch of Utahns to express their opinions and form a vision from it. So last time Utah led a visioning effort, it was in 1990, it was late 1990s, and it resulted in 140 miles of new rail and 70 new rail stations. Now there are about 200,000 people within a half mile of a rail station. Today, however, we have some new and important issues. Right now, there are about 3 million people in Utah, but by 2050, that number will almost double to 5.5 million people. Why should we involve youth in planning for the future? Well, first of all, we have the most at stake for the future, because a lot of people who are making decisions now in the legislature and other places won't be around in 2050 to see the consequences and effects of their decisions. Secondly, it teaches students about the role of science and modeling in public policy. And third, it motivates parents and other adults to get involved. Another good reason to get youth involved is that they want to be involved. Polls of adults show that they aren't so sure who can make the best decisions for Utah's future. But recently, when we polled 600 high school students, they know exactly who they want to make their decisions. They want to make the decisions themselves. This time around, the vision includes 11 different issues, and we used a variety of different strategies to get youth involved. First, we used technology to get students interested because teenagers are always on their phones. Second, we used social norm strategies, which I will talk about in a minute. And then we piggybacked on existing youth organizations and activities to find groups of motivated people who might want to be involved in developing the future. First, I'm going to talk about technology. So this is a screenshot of the game. The game's goal is to simplify the issues into more a more user-friendly interface so that children and high school students can understand the issues more easily. One example of the issues was air quality. As most of you know, Utah has good air most of the time, but during the winters, we get inversions in which cold air and pollutants are trapped in the valleys, and then we get exceedances of the federal control standards. So, solving problems related to air quality requires a basic understanding of air pollution, and yet we've found that a lot of high school students still don't understand really where pollution comes from. So this is a graph of youth perceptions versus where pollution actually comes from. So the youth were right about the mobile sources, the cars, but they were wrong, as in they said 37% of pollution comes from point sources, the big industrial power plants that you see that are like billowing smoke all day. But in reality, those industrial power plants and point sources are only 13% of all of the pollution, because despite the fact that they may emit a lot of pollution, there's only like 2 or 3 of them in the whole state. So what really causes a lot of pollution is cars, which they got right, and then area sources, which are our homes, which individually don't produce a lot of pollution, but when combined, they produce a lot more than all the power plants. So this is an example of the air quality game, and what it does is it first gives students some information so they can make basic decisions, and then they can move that little slider on the bottom, and it affects the air quality in Utah's future by picking how fuel efficient our cars should be and their emissions. So, another strategy that we've been employing is social norms, which is what you think other people are doing. So, previous studies of adults show that they are motivated by social norms, which means that if they see someone else doing something, they're a lot more likely to do that because of peer pressure and a lot of other reasons. But up till recently, there hasn't been any research on whether this social norm effect is also true for youth, which is why I designed an experiment to test exactly that. So the results were that the social norm effect does carry over to the youth, and this is important because one important way to motivate youth to be involved in developing the future is to show them that other youth are involved and also leading the effort. So, in order to do this, I tried to get a bunch of people together to form the Envision Utah Youth Council. To do this, I spoke at a number of different things, including a middle school debate conference, and this one in the bottom right, which was a group of 600 high school students who were part of their local city councils, like the youth council of their cities. So, yeah, once we had enough people involved, we started to meet regularly to discuss ways to motivate other students to be involved with the survey and the campaign. So once we had a group, we met and we discussed all these different ways. So we made a Facebook page, and all the people posted on social media about it. They also organized events at their schools, wrote newspaper articles for their school newspaper, even went on the radio right there in the top right, and then they also spoke at assemblies to motivate other people. So they were a lot of help. So overall, the Envision Utah, Your Utah, Your Future 2050 campaign had 50,000 people share their opinions about Utah's future. And over 20,000 of the 50,000 came from the Youth Council's efforts. So we did, I have to say we did a pretty good job. Okay, so that's just the first step, however, because now that we know what everyone wants, but we need to get that into public policy. So we need to make sure that the legislature follows what everyone wants, which is the Your Utah, Your Future 2050 vision. So I am inviting you to be a part of the Envision Utah Youth Council to help lobby and encourage the legislature to follow the Your Utah, Your Future 2050 vision that was compiled from all these different people's opinions.